Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Just when you thought UFC 279 couldn't get any worse, the UFC adds a fight to it, which in my opinion makes the card even worse. I am disgusted with UFC 279. It's headlined by Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz, and now we officially have a co-main event. Less than 3 weeks out from the card, we are getting Tony Ferguson versus Li JingLiang at welterweight for the co-main event of UFC 279. As if the main event between Khamzat Chimaev and Nate Diaz wasn't a big enough slap in the face, the UFC and Dana White decide to go with Tony Ferguson coming off of that brutal KO front kick from Michael Chandler at UFC 274. Now we have to watch Tony Ferguson move up to 170 pounds and fight a nasty power puncher in Li JingLiang. I mean, this is the worst matchmaking that I've ever seen. Tony Ferguson is on a 4-fight losing streak. And I've been a defender of Tony Ferguson. I said, he's lost, but he's been fighting the best in the world. Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, and now Michael Chandler. I predicted him to beat Michael Chandler, and he looked very good in that first round. But now he's been KO'd by Michael Chandler. He's 38 years old, and I thought there were so many matchups the UFC could make for Tony Ferguson. They could have made the Robbie Lawler fight. If Nick Diaz wants to fight again, I thought that made perfect sense. Even the Jorge Masvidal fight would have been acceptable to me. I really wanted the Conor McGregor matchup. Tony Ferguson is a legend in the sport, and I wanted to see him wait out for the rest of the year. Then maybe early next year, spring of next year, Conor McGregor versus Tony Ferguson. If anyone deserves that fight, it would be Tony Ferguson. And it's one of the very few winnable fights for Conor McGregor. So I really thought the UFC would book it. But nope, they need a co-main event for 279, which is a garbage card. And so on short notice now, we have Tony Ferguson returning after that brutal front kick KO where Michael Chandler just punted him and slept him so badly. He didn't get up for a couple minutes. And now he's making kind of a quick turnaround, jumping right back into a short notice fight against Li JingLiang, who's a massive 170-pounder, who has nasty power, who's KOing guys in his last fight like Muslim Salikov. I know he has the loss to Khamzat Chimaev where he got outgrappled. Before that, he KO'd Santiago Ponzinibbio. This matchup has no business being made. I cannot believe, out of all the opponents you could have hand-selected for Tony Ferguson, that would have been fun. Dan Hooker even. I've already mentioned a million others. Conor McGregor, Jorge Masvidal, Robbie Lawler, Jim Miller at lightweight even. There's so many great matchups. Nate Diaz. I would have loved to see Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. And instead, we get Tony Ferguson versus Li JingLiang. And I don't know what the UFC is paying Tony Ferguson for this fight. Maybe they're paying him extra because the fight's less than 3 weeks away. Now, I don't know if they had discussed this, a month ago, and Tony Ferguson and Li JingLiang were training for this fight, knowing that, it was just a matter of negotiations. But something just doesn't feel right here. For a short notice fight, Tony Ferguson on a 4-fight losing streak, moving up to 170 pounds against Li JingLiang, who's arguably in his prime. I know Li JingLiang is not the elite of the elite at 170 pounds, but he's still ranked in the top 15, I believe. If not, he was fairly recently. And you have Tony Ferguson, who, got the brakes beat off of him by Justin Gaethje, got out-grappled by Charles Oliveira, got out-grappled by Beneil Dariush, and got flatline KO'd by Michael Chandler. Yeah, let's throw him in there with Li JingLiang. And then on top of that, you have the main event, which I've already talked about in many videos. Khamzat Chimaev versus Nate Diaz is a garbage main event. The UFC is using Khamzat Chimaev as a hitman to destroy Nate Diaz because he refuses to sign a contract extension. And this card is terrible. There's really not a lot of great fights on this card. I mean, the second best fight on this card is Ion Cutelaba versus Johnny Walker. That's how bad UFC 279 is. And they were saying, yeah, we're adding some big fights to the card, or we're going to add some fights to the card. Tony Ferguson versus Li JingLiang. And, I've been a defender of Tony Ferguson. I think the exaggerations of him being washed up were just that, exaggerations. And I thought Tony Ferguson was better than people were giving him credit for. And that's why I picked him against Michael Chandler. And that prediction was looking very good in the first round against Michael Chandler. But now he lost that fight. Now his chin's been cracked. He got flatline KO'd. I feel like they should have gave him something. What is his manager thinking? They couldn't get a more favorable matchup? He needs to fire his manager immediately. And I've been talking about this since I started my channel. Why is his manager not negotiating 5-round fights? Tony Ferguson's biggest advantage is his cardio and his ability to drown guys in the later rounds because he does not get tired. No, let's book a 3-round fight against Li JingLiang. And I hate to say it, as far as an early prediction, and I'm going to go watch tape and maybe I'll change my mind. I think Tony Ferguson will have some success in this fight. But Li JingLiang just finds a way to clip guys on the feet. And he's massive at 170 pounds. And I have a feeling with the quick turnaround for Tony Ferguson, the fact that he got his chin cracked in the last fight against Michael Chandler, I have a feeling Li JingLiang is going to flatline KO Tony Ferguson. And it's going to be heartbreaking. Honestly, I don't know if I can watch it. I don't know if I can watch Tony Ferguson, a guy who we watched for so many years, put on amazing performances and a huge win streak over the course of many years. And now he's already lost 4 in a row, and we got to see him get thrown to Li JingLiang. And what's the point of this fight anyway? I mean, Li JingLiang's never moving up to the top of the welterweight division, so it's not necessarily to build his name. I think they're just doing it in spite of Tony Ferguson. Somebody at the top of the UFC does not like Tony Ferguson because this is a terrible matchup. There's literally 7 opponents off the top of my head that would have been more fun than Li JingLiang. And I, this is just a slap in the face because the fight that I've been dreaming of for literal years, and I've talked about it on this channel many of times, is Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz at 170 pounds. And what do we have at UFC 279? We have Nate Diaz and Tony Ferguson both fighting on the same card at 170 pounds. But instead of fighting each other, we got to watch Nate Diaz get brutalized by Khamzat Chimaev. And now we got to watch Tony Ferguson get brutalized by Li JingLiang. I'm so disappointed with UFC 279. I honestly want to skip the card. I mean, there's so many better matchups they could have made. Imagine a card where they booked Khamzat Chimaev versus Colby Covington, co-main event Nate Diaz versus Tony Ferguson. Sign me up for that. But instead, we got to watch this garbage. And then the next best fight on the card's Ion Cutelaba versus Johnny Walker. Really, people should not order this card. And I don't know what the UFC is doing. I don't know what Tony Ferguson's management is doing. Tony Ferguson has great cardio. I still believe that he has some fairly decent skill. I just believe the lightweight division has evolved to a point where he just can't keep up with the elite of the elite. And I believe there's so many fun matchups where we could see Tony Ferguson have competitive fights, potentially win these fights. But instead, we got to watch Li JingLiang brutalize him, potentially KO him. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tony Ferguson somehow pulls it off. But to beat Li JingLiang, typically you have to wrestle. Look what Khamzat Chimaev did. He grappled him immediately, took him down, submitted him. Tony Ferguson, over the course of his career, is not a guy that's going to go out there and grapple and wrestle and look to take him down. He's going to go out there and throw wild combinations. He's going to pressure Li JingLiang. He's going to try to slip punches. And Li JingLiang just has a way of finding guys' chins and putting them to sleep. And, there's been a litany of questionable matchmaking lately. I mean, you got Robbie Lawler versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. What? I would have rather seen Ponzinibbio versus Li JingLiang rematch and do Robbie Lawler versus Tony Ferguson. That makes a lot of sense. That's 2 legends that could fight each other and get one of them back on the winning track. It'd be a competitive fight. It makes a lot of sense. But instead, we got to watch this garbage. I mean, I don't know what the UFC is doing recently, but this is the year that we're just seeing legends get smashed in the sport. And I don't know if I can handle watching Tony Ferguson versus Li JingLiang. This is a terrible matchup. I hate UFC 279 with a passion. It's literally making me hate the sport. And I love Tony Ferguson. He's one of my favorite fighters to watch. But this matchup makes no sense. And it makes even less sense because of the time frame. Imagine if the UFC just came to him like last week to try to make this fight. He's stepping in on 3 weeks' notice to fight a dangerous guy at 170 pounds. What is going on here? All for the sake of just having another fight on UFC 279 because they made the fight card garbage because Nate Diaz gets pay-per-view points and they don't want to help him at all on the UFC 279 card, which I have a whole video about. I will link down in the description. I believe they are intentionally sabotaging this card. I just don't get this matchmaking. There's so many better matchups for everyone all the way around. And my ideal scenario, I think a lot of you might be disappointed with this thought process. I am praying that Khamzat Chimaev pulls out of UFC 279. Maybe he gets cut in sparring. I want a minor injury for Khamzat Chimaev that forces him to pull out of UFC 279. And we get Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. I wouldn't even mind paying for that as a pay-per-view main event. I have been fantasizing about that matchup for years. So that's what I'm hoping for. And I know it sounds crazy. I'm hoping for a main event fighter to pull out of a pay-per-view. That's how bad UFC 279 is. Then we can throw Li JingLiang and that Tony Ferguson matchup completely away. Maybe if Tony Ferguson gets a win over Nate Diaz, I would favor Tony Ferguson in that fight. If he beats up Nate Diaz early next year, middle of next year, we could get Tony Ferguson versus Conor McGregor because that's the fight I was really holding out hope for. If anyone deserves a money fight against Conor McGregor, it would make a lot of sense. It would be Tony Ferguson versus Conor McGregor, and what a spectacle that would be. So please, MMA gods, we've had so many great fights get canceled in the past. We never got Tony Ferguson versus Khabib in their primes. Please, let Khamzat pull out with a minor injury that doesn't have him out for a long time. And please, for UFC 279, give us Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz for the main event. I would kill for that. I'd be tickled pink if that happened. And I'm honestly hoping for it. Let me know what you guys think of all this. Am I crazy for wanting Khamzat Chimaev to pull out? I don't care about that main event at all. It's a one-sided beatdown win for Khamzat Chimaev. So let me know in the comments if I'm crazy or not. Don't forget to like the video. And thank you so much for watching.